Good evening, everyone. So nice to see so many familiar faces, new faces. Such a pleasure to have you with us. For those of you who have not yet met, I'm Francesca Ogiman-White and I'm the founder of the Beauty Triangle. Now, as the invitation stated on tonight, we're here to discuss all things body confidence, whatever that means to all of you. After all, as summer approaches, I think our attention is increasingly turning to our physiques, whether that's how to be cleaner and leaner, how to regain lost strength, and even to feel more confident and happier in our skin. Now, many of you will know, and for any of our sort of regulars, when we first started the Beauty Triangle, it was with the aim to educate and empower our consumer audiences on all aspects of their health and well-being, and importantly, always from a holistic standpoint. But it was also to connect you with the most sought-after experts and the most trusted voices of authority in the wellness industry, which really neatly leads me to our amazing panellists tonight. We're joined firstly by one of the UK's leading dermatologists, Dr. Alexis Granite, also by co-founder of 23MD and aesthetic doctor, Dr. Suha Kersh, and finally Lanserhof's own head of fitness, Jason Reynolds. And really they're here tonight to give us the most cutting edge routes, the most proven solutions to achieving a beautiful body, whether that's high-tech treatments, whether that's holistic therapies, or maybe it's just the simple things that we can do every day from our homes to make us feel more self-confident and more confident in our bodies. A few things I have to mention just before we get started. You've probably found on your seats some programs. I can see you're already filling it in, well done, and referral cards. So if you do want us to connect you with anyone that you hear speak tonight, all you need to do is leave your email address, tick the box, and we'll connect you with a practitioner following the event. We'll have our normal audience Q&A right at the end, so any questions you have, please save them until then, and I promise you we'll get to all of those later. And then finally, we have an amazing goodie bag ready and waiting for you outside. So as soon as you are ready to leave, hopefully you'll stay towards the very end, but as soon as you're ready to leave, please don't go away without taking one of those. We've got amazing things from Mida Skincare, we've got Sambara supplements. What else is in there? Something from Dr. Natalie and also something wonderful from Lanserhof themselves. So I promise you don't want to leave that one behind. I've spoken enough already, so I'm going to hand over to our amazing panellists. They're going to say a very quick hello, tell you a bit about what they do, and then we're going to get cracking with our main conversation. So starting first with Dr. Alexis Granite, you've got the floor.
Thank you for having me.
Not at all.
I'm Alexis Granite. I'm a consultant dermatologist. I work at Sarah Chapman in Sloane Square. And actually, I'm US trained and UK certified, so I've worked in both the US and the UK,
which is
maybe just
quite a rarity.
Little bit unusual.
Yeah, exactly. It's your USK. Dr. Kersh.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you
very
for
much.
being here.
It's been a long time coming. I missed one the other
We
day.
did a webinar once, but it's never quite the same on a
Never the same.
laptop. Yeah.
I'm Dr. Suha Kersh. I'm a clinical director at 23MD and the cosmetic lead at the clinic. And I specialize in cosmetic treatments.
And a very holistic approach to aesthetics as well, which I think we're going to find out more about, which is really interesting. And then finally, Jason Reynolds.
Well, welcome all of you to Lanserhof, first and foremost. I'm the head of fitness here at Lanserhof. I'm a sports scientist and have been a personal trainer and worked in members clubs for nearly 17 years. So, been around a bit.
We're going to be hearing about everything from reformer Pilates to nutrition to resistance-based exercise from Jason. Yes, exactly. Lots of questions for him. Please keep keep those questions until the end. But anyway, we'll get started with the main conversation. So starting firstly with Dr. Alexis Granite. She just introduced herself to you, but she is a dual certified dermatologist, aesthetic doctor, and she really sort of, your work, spreads from the medical to the aesthetic, which I think is so relevant to sort of how we want to have treatment today. But maybe start by telling us, you see sort of women, men, teenagers, all ages and stages of life. What is concerning people mostly with their skin at the moment?
So I think it depends. Obviously, as you said, I see patients who are quite young all the way up to quite old.
The mature.
And yes, mature. And I would say probably in the younger years, one of the main concerns has always been acne. And that definitely is continuing and actually continues well throughout womanhood, even in postmenopausal women. So that's something that definitely starts early. And then, the sort of what can I do to prevent sort of the signs of aging? When do I need to start those types of treatments? Do I need to do preventative type treatments? I would say that's the other big piece that people are really focused on. So I would say the younger years tends to be the sort of acne picture, and the later years tends to be more kind of the anti-aging sphere.
And where does the sort of medical dermatology fit in as well? Because you obviously do all sorts of mole checks, and as a dermatologist, you sort of look at hair and skin and nails and a lot of things that people don't even realise, I think, that you practice.
Yeah, absolutely. So it can happen in a bunch of different ways. So it can be that a patient comes to me first for mole checks or to treat their acne, and then we all are aging, so they start aging, and then they become interested in other types of treatments, so anti-aging treatments. So it might be that I've seen them for 5 years, 10 years, and what started out as mole checks or dealing with their acne or their eczema turns into, we then start on a kind of anti-aging program or a rejuvenation program. Or sometimes it happens the other way. I actually just had a patient today who we were doing some filler treatment, and I said, what's that thing on your nose? And she said, oh, I don't know, that's been there for a while, it's bleeding. And I was like,
oh my
okay, well,
goodness.
now we're going to need to do a biopsy of that. So,
exactly.
So I do love coming at it from both of those angles because, as you said, we really have to take sort of a holistic approach to the skin, and you can't really treat the skin, in an anti-aging with a rejuvenation lens without treating the health of the skin too, and that's where the medical piece comes in.
It's such a clever combination, and I can see why you're so sort of passionate about it. I think it's so nice because you must see entire generations sort of passing through your doors as well. Like you said, from the teenagers with their acne to their mothers who have come in seeking some rejuvenation, even to sort of the grandparents as well. But you mentioned acne sort of at all different stages of life. You mentioned the mole checks and things like that. But what are the conditions, I suppose, skin-wise, that are causing the greatest impact to our self-esteem at the moment?
Yeah, I think, the skin, I think with dermatology in particular, obviously the skin is so visual, and so you see the disease on the skin, which is maybe different from other conditions that people suffer with, like high blood pressure or high cholesterol. So there is always a massive confidence kind of wrapped up with skin, because it is something that can be difficult. When you're suffering with a skin condition, it can be something difficult to hide. But I would say probably the things that tend to affect the face are the ones that cause the most kind of issue, and
because of the visibility.
So
because in society as well, isn't it true that there's that sort of feeling that healthy skin is clear skin and it's glowing skin, and so we have all these connotations about what even looking healthy is today.
Yes, 100%. And even just going back to acne, and it's caused by your poor diet, and that obviously there's so much more to it than that, but I would say things like acne, rosacea, pigmentary disorders, so melasma, vitiligo, those are things that people really suffer with for very long periods of time, and they can be difficult to camouflage. So I think there is a lot around confidence and those types of conditions.
And I suppose with all of these conditions that you've mentioned, the rosacea, pigmentation, acne, a lot of it is very much about just managing those conditions. Something like rosacea, for example, if somebody's presenting with that, there is no one-stop shop to actually cure it. It is just about management over time, and that can be quite difficult as a patient to come to terms with.
100%. And I think especially when you're talking about acne, when you talk about teenagers, they half of them aren't even washing their face. So it's a lot about...
Or they're using their shower gel that goes all over their body.
So it is a lot about management, and there isn't one, as you said, sort of quick fix that can just make it all go away and never come back. And with all of the conditions I mentioned, acne, rosacea, melasma, vitiligo, they're all, as you said, they're managing, not curing, unfortunately. And so there is a bit of, let's get it to a place where you want your skin to be, but then we have to continue on a program to keep it that way.
Exactly. I think all of you are going to touch on this subject, but it's very much all about that journey and about that maintenance, and skin is definitely one of the big ones for that. When it comes to what is actually driving poor skin quality and even sort of low self-esteem about the skin, do you think it's the external aggressors? Is it the UVA? Is it the UVB, the pollution, the digital devices, or is it the I suppose the internal, like the hormones, the nutrition, the stress that we've all probably had going on over the past years?
I think it's definitely both. I think external for sure. I mean, UVA and UVB, which are obviously ultraviolet light that comes from the sun, those are major players in all the conditions that we see in the skin, pigmentary, aging. And I think part of what's happening probably with what we're seeing in our clinics is, we're maybe of a generation where we weren't always so careful with sun protection, and we didn't have the knowledge that we have now. So we're seeing that long-term damage finally coming out in the skin, and what we can do to reverse that maybe. I think the importance of pollution is becoming, much clearer. Pollution, really does accelerate skin aging and a host of other skin issues. And so many of the products now that might be protective against UV will also include something for pollution defense as well. And then, there are many internal factors that actually overlap with these external bits. So I think hormones play a big role, and whether that's a hormonal imbalance because there's something going on internally, or, I think the environment is definitely playing a role with our hormones and hormone disruption, things like microplastics and all the chemicals that unfortunately we are exposed to on a daily basis. Stress is a major player, and that, plays a role in terms of inflammation in the body, which can cause a host of issues, but particularly on the skin and exacerbating skin conditions.
I mean, that's the greatest sort of threat to all of us, isn't it? Sort of stress right now, in whether it's mental, whether it's physical, whether it's sort of the deep-rooted sort of stuff that goes undetected for so long.
100%. And then there's our microbiome. So we've now, with all of these other pieces, with inflammation, with hormones, we've realized that we have these, billions of organisms living on our skin, living within us. And so when those become imbalanced, whether that's from stress, poor diet, travel, being ill, whatever it is, that can throw off, all the equilibrium within the body and certainly within the skin, and can cause a host of issues. So there's lots of reasons to have problems with the skin.
And I guess you mentioned things like, firstly, the UVA and the UVB that comes from skin. You mentioned right at the end the microbiome, the pollution. Are these things that we can sort of address in a topical way? Is it just about getting the right skincare regimes together, or is it actually more about lifestyle changes in general that will help us to manage them?
I think it's both, again.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you feel the same way as well. Managing, I think, an aesthetic treatment program versus a dermatologic program, you really do have to come at it with a sort of 360 approach, and that might include skincare, it may include prescriptions and medical in-office treatments, and also lifestyle. So whether that's changing the diet a little bit, stress control, working out a little bit more to combat stress, all those things play a massive role in the management of skin conditions, but in just general health, obviously, as well.
No, 100%. And when it comes to things like the breakouts and the acne that you mentioned at the beginning, are there any, maybe not quick fixes, but are there any sort of tried and tested topical treatments that you would get your patients onto, whether they're teenagers, whether they're sort of in the sort of menopausal years, maybe, and seeing those flare-ups that can help them to sort of get skin confident again?
Yeah, so I think looking for products in general that are suitable, particularly if it's a younger patient maybe who has oilier skin, so looking for things just that are lighter moisturizers, non-comedogenic, oil-free skincare can just be a good place to start, because there's just so much out there that that's a way to kind of narrow it down.
And the non-comedogenic being so that it doesn't clog pores and lead to,
So it wouldn't have heavy things, lots of oils, mineral oil, petrolatum, those are those sort of greasier substances that might be amazing for dry skin, but maybe not so good if you're acne prone.
Or really nice on the body, but just not on the face, for example,
And then thinking about over-the-counter ingredients, things like salicylic acid, alpha hydroxy acids like glycolic acid, even retinol, and kind of tried and true benzoyl peroxide that's been around for decades. It's an antibacterial that can really help with spots. So that can be great for sort of management of acne, just over-the-counter wise.
Yeah.
And then there are a host of prescriptions. So, a lot of times the patients that end up coming to me have maybe already tried those products, tried something out there that's particularly for acne-prone skin, and then we might then come up with a prescription regimen for them when the over-the-counter stuff just hasn't been enough.
Would that be something along the lines of a Roaccutane, or a sort of a drug that is obviously going to then really keep the acne at bay?
Yeah, so it could be Roaccutane. It could also be that we start with prescription creams first, so things like retinoids, which are basically the prescription strength version, like a cousin drug to a retinol, essentially.
Punchy version.
Yes. It could be oral antibiotics, although a lot of doctors have tried to move away a little bit from antibiotics just because of resistance issues. And then actually for women, a lot of times hormonal treatments are an option too. So certain birth control pills can be quite good. Combined contraception with both estrogen and progesterone can really help to manage hormones. And there's actually a medication called spironolactone as well, which it doesn't provide any sort of hormonal, any contraception, but it's essentially almost like a hormone blocker. So it blocks some of the effects that we all make male and female hormones. So it blocks some of the effects of male hormones on the skin. And that can be amazing for acne in women, and with very few side effects.
And I mean, acne also isn't just on our face, it also can affect all different sites of our body. So are these approaches, are they applicable to, maybe if you're suffering breakouts on back, shoulders, chest, that sort of thing?
Totally. And I think the truth is that body acne in some cases can actually be much harder to treat than facial acne, just because, number one, your tube of your prescription cream is maybe this big and your back is a very broad area. So it can be difficult to have enough product or even be able to
apply
enough to
it,
put
exactly.
it on. Yeah.
So
that
double
can
jointed
be a bit of
that.
an issue. And also the skin of the back and chest, which are two areas that tend to break out besides the face. The skin there is quite thick, and so again, penetration-wise, with topical treatments, it can be a challenge, and that's where sometimes those oral medications will come in. So things like spironolactone, contraception, Roaccutane, those might be.
It goes to show why you need to just be sat with a dermatologist who gets all of these things, because these are encyclopedic words that you seem to be rolling off your tongue so easily that even I don't sort of really know much about. When it comes to the sort of hormonally affected skin, very sensitized skin, maybe in later years, are there any other ingredients that you'd be throwing into the mix that could really help get that under control?
Yeah, so I think when somebody has very sensitized skin, actually one thing to look at before you even then go adding more ingredients is just looking at what they're using, because a lot of times they may actually be better suited to pare back their routine rather than do more.
You have to actually sort of deep dive a bit into what they're already doing. Yeah.
And a lot of times patients that come to see me, they might be layering many, many products, which are great products because there's so many amazing things out there, but that can really cause irritation. So a lot of times we might take a close look at what are they using, and then how can we kind of strip that back a little bit, and then maybe add back in once the skin has settled. Again, for acne, looking at things, that might help unclog the pores but not cause too much irritation. So something like a glycolic acid might be a good choice for a sort of an older patient with more sensitized skin.
Yeah.
And then prescription-wise, again, looking at things that maybe are a little bit on the milder side. If someone's really sensitized, they might need prescription steroids, creams, just to sort of calm things down. And then we can also do a type of allergy testing as well. So if sometimes what I see it a lot in beauty editors, actually a lot, who are given so many different products to try.
Just was me about 10 years ago, and you break out
and then
everywhere.
You start breaking out, and then you just feel like you can't use anything because everything is causing irritation.
You're terrified too as well.
Yeah. So I, in some of those cases, we end up doing a type of allergy testing called patch testing, which is where we place patches on the back and we look for very common things that people have a reaction to, so preservatives, fragrances, and we then try and explain how you can avoid those things.
That's really smart. And as a dermatologist, obviously you mentioned earlier, but you deal with much weightier issues as well, such as sort of suspicious moles that crop up. And you mentioned, even the case of the lady with the sort of mole on her nose today. What are the warning signs? So you said for her it was that it was bleeding, but are there other things that we need to be attuned to, like areas of the body that we don't check so much, for example?
Yeah, so I think it's good to try to get into the habit of just kind of doing a quick check if you can, maybe before you're going to get in the shower, a couple times a year at least, so once every few months, and really you do have to look everywhere. So it can be face, neck, the whole trunk, in between the toes, the back, getting a mirror to help you, because unfortunately, skin cancer can develop anywhere. Two of the sort of big warning signs are something that was not bleeding that is now bleeding persistently. So if you nick something and it bleeds a little bit, you don't have to go rushing to the doctor, but something that just has been bleeding or isn't healing for several weeks at a time would be a sign that you'd want to show a professional. Something again that's itching persistently, so it can just be a sign that there's changes in the skin there that need to be addressed. And when we talk about moles, sort of the easy way to remember changes in moles that might be, again, a sign of that there's something going on there, we call it the ABCDEs of moles. So A is for asymmetry, B is for border irregularity. So if the border of the mole was once even and then all of a sudden is uneven, that's something, again, that you might want to have checked. C is for color, so very dark moles or a mole that is changing color. D is for diameter, meaning that something is growing very big. I think the important one truly is E, which is just evolving. So if you see something, you know, that's changing very quickly, meaning over weeks to months, a mole, a freckle, a spot, you know, then I think it is worth having that looked at.
Yeah, and I guess as well, these changes can come across. They can come about very quickly as well. Maybe after a sort of sunny holiday where you've just been sunbathing every day, even with your SPF 50 on, you know, you can still see those changes, can't you?
Yeah.
And then finally, when it comes to the treatments that you perform at the Skinesis sort of medical clinic, are there any that you find that really do give women or men back that sort of body confidence that we're sort of talking about tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I think I tend, when we're dealing with rejuvenation, oftentimes to do combination treatments, which I'm sure you do as well, which is just to maybe use a little, you know, a combination of injectables, maybe with lasers, and so that might ultimately give a good sort of end result to really target all the different changes that are happening in the skin that with aging. But that being said, I mean, that can be a bit of a slow burn, so it can take a little bit of time to really see those results. So I think quick kind of fixes, truthfully, neurotoxin, so Botox is quick and easy.
Especially in like parts of the body, because I think we always think of it as just being face,
Yes.
but I guess, you know, it could be great for sweating in the summer,
Yes.
right?
And going into summer, that's a big one, where particularly if you have, you know, very sweaty underarms or sweaty palms, that can be a very quick treatment that really works. You see the result very quickly. Another treatment I really like are the skin boosters. So I don't know if you heard of like Profilo, Volite, Revive. Those are basically injectable hyaluronic acid that help just with the quality of the skin. So they're not changing the shape of your face, they're not changing contours, or they're just making you look glowy and fresh, and they're just very easy. And again, I think that just can sometimes really help somebody feel like they just look a bit fresher and then they feel a bit fresher. And actually those treatments can be done elsewhere on the body too, not just on the face, so chest and, you know, elbows, knees. I don't do a ton of body work, but they can be used all over.
I feel like any skin on the body, face, you're like the go-to girl, whatever is going on with it. That was super interesting. Thank you so much. And I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions for you later. I know I have plenty, but I'm also the one up here asking the questions. So I need to also pass over to other people from time to time. Thank you, Alexis. The second speaker is Dr. Suha Kersh. So Suha already introduced herself. So she's clinical director at 23MD, beautiful clinic in Chelsea, renowned for its very holistic approach. So there's everything from injectables to body shaping to bioidentical hormone treatment, all under one roof, which is certainly like the future, I think, when it comes to treating ourselves aesthetically. But I mean, we're here talking about body confidence. So maybe before we sort of talk about more the face-led stuff that you do, maybe Suha, you can tell us what people are sort of looking for from their bodies, I suppose, as summer approaches, thinking about maybe the female patient first and foremost.
I think that different people are looking for different things. It depends on what stage of life they're in, the age they're in, and what's expected of them at a social level and a personal level. So many people would not look down, they would just look up here.
Particularly after the last few years of Zoom and sort of just looking at our faces on screens.
Oh yeah.
We've ignored the
Those
body a bit.
last 3 years of the COVID phase and all the stress and the aging, it's really played havoc with people's mentality, you know, kind of mental health. They've looked, you know, sad, they've looked older, they've lost a lot of volume, and everything that they felt is reflected on their faces.
That's so true.
So, and then they had to go on Zoom like this, everything. If you go on your phone, on FaceTime, and you're saying hello, everything just hangs out. So not only were, like, you never look at your face.
The
when
worst
you're talking
is
to
when you
people.
accidentally put the selfie mode on your phone.
Yeah,
and you
you're
see
like,
your
oh my
face
God,
looking down like that.
Can we
It's
just talk
horrific.
like this for now, please? You know, I do it. I speak to my children and I FaceTime them, and suddenly I look, hi, Dad. You know, because
Suddenly you need a ring light for those
everything
FaceTime
hangs
casual
out.
calls.
But then, you know, that's, you know, joking aside with your family and your friends, but when you don't look at yourself when you're talking. You don't look at how your mouth moves and your eyes move and all those things. And suddenly you're in Zoom with 10 people in front of you and you're looking at yourself. And it's not very kind.
But then also with the body, you're not even looking probably at
no,
that
and
bit
at the
as well.
body
and
you're
that
not
can be
looking with, thank goodness that you're not looking at Zoom at that, because that'll be,
That's so true.
the problem
It'd be
will
awful.
get bigger. So that we'll talk about that maybe in a bit, but to answer your question, what are people looking for in their bodies? I think it depends on what stage of their life they're in.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
what are they doing? So you have the younger ones who are coming in and saying, I'm going to the beach, I have a little bit of you know, my belly never goes away, my love handles never go away, can you help me for the
Everyone
beach?
has their sort of Achilles heel when it comes
the
to
little
their body.
Achilles heel. And there may be somebody who's coming in with mommy tummy,
Mhm.
I have a, the mummy tummy, the skin is a little bit loose and it's a bit
I'll be
kind
joining
of,
you soon.
I'm going to go to bikini, what can you do for me? There's no quick fix to that. That has to be started months in advance, the planning. A quick fix will really, it's not going to happen. The new ways to get money, really engaging in something like that in June for a holiday in July, it's not going to work. Just hit the gym. And maybe
Go and see Jason.
There's some, some more holistic approaches to that rather than that's urgent, which I think is unhealthy for somebody's mentality as well, to get into that zone of I'm going to starve myself, I'm going to do this and that for the summer. It's an unhealthy
I like your
state.
approach of just
I
planning
think we
things
have
over
to
the
plan,
year.
and it's a long-term game. I play the long-term look. I can't really fix things now, but we'll start. There will be the short-term gains. There'll be the profilos and the Botox will make you feel instantly great.
Yeah.
But then in a year and 2 years, we're going to look amazing because we've done the small steps into, betterment, into more holistic approach into your health and how you feel.
And with the body as well, a lot of the devices that you're using are energy-based. They're
They're
machines, so you
energy-based,
do need a little
so-
bit more time, I suppose.
So you can have you can come in and you might have a little loose tummy and the muscles are not that great and the bum and the tummy. We can do sculpt, which is a kind of a high intensity electromagnetic machine that gives you 20,000 contractions in one in the session.
I love this
So
machine.
it's brilliant.
like the cheat
I've
guide to going to the
actually
gym.
cheated and I've done that pre-holidays, by the way. I've done it.
That is almost a
And
bit of a quick fix it because you can do them quite close together as
You
well.
can
Those
well you do
treatments.
twice a week, and then so you finish in 2 weeks. You've done your 4.
And you do see a
And
bit
what
of
you're
like
doing is
muscularity afterwards.
you're strengthening the muscles. You're reaching muscles that you can't really quite reach. You might not agree with me. Usually, when you're exercising, you are stronger.
Yeah.
And the tummy is tighter and the skin is tighter as well. You can layer that on with some radio frequency. And if you even have the time and you've thought it through before, you can do even Morpheus 8, which is something microneedling and radio frequency tightens the skin and regenerates. But
So again,
in
it's
my
that
opinion,
combination
that has
approach.
to be done much earlier because
Yeah.
of the sun exposure.
Yeah.
So I don't tend to do things out of season. But that's something that you can do, enjoy, and go on holiday feeling better. You can lift the bum, you can work with the calves, the arms. And even then, beyond that, with the sculpt, when you're looking at core strength, and I even use it beyond that when I have, and I combine it with the sister chair. So you sit on the chair, and that
This is
kind
the
of
Emsella chair.
Emsella. So that usually works on the core muscles and your pelvic floor.
Because I guess everything is connected as well. And
So
again,
I've had people recovering from back pain. I've had people recovering from difficulties, and going to the gym is difficult. But they're veterans. They've done. Then they just need a little bit of a little boost to get them moving forward. People with urinary incontinence, people with sexual dysfunctions, people with a lot. You get their core muscles moving.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
give them that little push for them to be able to move forward again.
It sounds like
So
the
it's
stomach
not
is
just-
definitely a key area that people fixate on.
It is, because it's what you see. You don't see a bum and you don't stand there. Some people do, and they look around and they want the cellulite and the bum lifted, but the tummy's there. And if you're wearing a bikini, and also if you're sitting down, your tummy's hanging over your trousers.
Yeah.
So it's a constant reminder
And I was thinking
of
with
the
the
2
tummy as
kilos
well,
you put on. And kind of.
But with your tummy as well, for women, obviously it's sort of where they carry children, and then you said you can end up with that mummy tummy later, and that can always be sort of a reminder of maybe your stomach is different to how it used to be in menopause. Obviously women can struggle, and not men, but women can also again struggle with that sort of weight gain, particularly around that midsection.
We see a lot of men, and they do struggle silently.
Are
And
there
the wives push them
concerns
our
still?
way.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of concerns. They suffer silently as much as women, and I think now there's more awareness. So we're seeing a lot more men come into clinic requesting certain treatments.
Really?
Yeah.
And the areas that they're concerned about are also stomach or other areas?
Stomach, love handles, particularly.
Yeah.
Kind of don't want to be so thick and heavy here. So, you can, going back to your question about what do you do at this point, because I know I talk a lot, so James, just stop me.
No, I just have to interrupt you occasionally. It's totally fine. It's not me being rude.
It's getting the body moving and how you want to move, and having the kind of the long-term vision to where you want to go. So you might want to do some fat freezing if you want to get, a pocket of fat that you've always had. reduced. So
But again, fat freezing is something that we have to start sort of.
But I would say
before
6
summer,
months in
right?
advance, but 4 months in advance or 3 months of advance is good enough.
Yeah, because
So
that's
you
how
have
long
to
it
start
takes the fat
planning.
cells to break down when you do.
And then
the
you
cool
have to look
sculpting,
at
right?
skin regeneration and skin tightening, and that's something you're going to have to also work on in advance. So something you should work on in February or in March if you're looking to go on holiday in the summer, or something you should work on in September, October if you're going to go away at Christmas.
Because this is something we've also spoken
Yeah.
about just before this event, in fact, was that we don't just go away in the summer anymore.
No, it's all year.
Yeah.
So you're getting ready all year. You're kind of going from one event to the next.
That's relaxing. It's constant maintenance.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And tell us, because you've got a really keen sort of interest in the psychology of aesthetic treatment
Yeah.
as well. So when you're talking to a patient, male or female, about their body, about the things that are bothering them, how do you go about making them feel safe in that space and enable them to open up to you? Because it can be quite a difficult thing, you know, to sit in front of a doctor and say all of these
Coming to
things.
see me is overwhelming. I wouldn't want to come and see me. I mean, no, it's overwhelming. You're coming in, you're vulnerable, you're sitting there in front of somebody and telling them all about your vulnerabilities and what you don't like about yourself, and trusting that they will help you.
Yeah.
So it's a very vulnerable place to be, and trusting this person's going to listen and do what's right for you.
Yeah, exactly, and make
So
a responsible choice for
I
you.
appreciate that in the patient. I appreciate that their patient journey from the time they picked up the phone, made the appointment, and come and sat in my clinic and waited for me and come into my room is not an easy journey to make.
No, and I think
that's
that's actually
taking
when a
some
lot of patients
calculation.
stumble, actually, is that
So-
even getting in front of you.
It's just getting in front of me. That whole process required quite a lot of, you know, they're fed up.
Confidence.
They want to see me. They want to do something about it. So I appreciate that I slow things down a lot. So I spend a lot of time talking.
We
I
know.
try and get them to talk to me more
Yeah.
than I talk. So I have my turn. So initially I'm quite quiet. I do go quiet. And I try and really get the gist of my patient. I try and see who they are, what do they do in life, where are their pressures, why are they doing what they're doing? Why did they wait till 55 or 70 to do it? And why are they at 25 do they want to do it? Where are they in life? And are their concerns justified for them?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not my choice to make, but perhaps it's my professional place to be able to provide the right treatment for the right person, or back off if it's not the right thing at all.
And do you ever say no to a patient?
I do, because I just don't think it's the right treatment for that person, and somebody else may want to do it and do a better job than I would if I didn't believe in what I was doing.
Yeah.
So the first question I do ask my patients is quite unusual: is what do you like about yourself? 99.9%. They look at themselves and I hand them the mirror and say, tell me what you like. And they're like, well, you know these lines I don't like. I'm like, I didn't ask you that yet. We need to go back to what you like. They don't know what they like. They haven't thought about it in years and years and years, especially if you're a mom. And you know you're running at 1,000 miles an hour, working, kids. When's the last time anybody's asked you how you are? Never
Exactly.
mind what your eyes are beautiful.
Or what you
or
like about yourself.
Nothing. So it's the first moment they sit there, and I want them to like themselves because I want them to know that not everything is negative.
But we are
Not
hardwired to go
everything-
straight to the thing that bothers us.
Yeah, not
before
everything
the
has to be
celebratory
negative.
things.
Not everything has to be fixed all the time. You know, your eyes are green with a little yellow in them. Your nose is nice, and it forces them to find those things that they like about themselves and don't want to change about themselves. And maybe it revived.
Yeah.
So maybe I just want their eyes to have more energy rather than sad.
And do you have the same approach when it comes to the body as well? What do you
Absolutely.
like? What do you
What
not
do you
like?
like about your body? Tell me what you feel is your strength.
Yeah.
Not what's your strength. What do you feel? So, you know, I have a nice little waist. I have long legs. So they start being positive and enjoying themselves a little bit, and then you say, "What are your concerns?"
So
Where
you
are we
actually
at here?
so you switch it a little
I
bit.
switch
Go
it.
to the
So
positive
they
first.
tell me, I don't want to hear what's ugly because there's nothing ugly. I don't want to hear what you don't like because you know what? What are the concerns? It's not. You are beautiful. Everybody has something in them that's a strong. You know,
attribute.
Yeah.
And when you're there to build body confidence as well, you can't go straight to the negative. You do have to celebrate that sort of unique person, patient who sat
but
in front of you.
You also have to acknowledge. You can't be
That's true.
patronizing.
Yeah.
So I have to be honest. And then when they say, look, I have this muffin belly or I have these knees, I'm like, yeah, I see what you're saying. Because I've been there. I'm a woman. I've had babies. I know what they're like. So you need to listen, not patronize and say everything's perfect. It's not.
That's so true.
So, and then you need to give them a plan that works. And the plan that works has to work with their timetable, work with their lifestyle, work with their budget, and work with their timeline.
Yeah. So
And
again,
be
it's that
respectful
real
of all of
communication
it.
between.
And also it has to work with what is this person ready for mentally. Not everybody's ready for everything, for the deep end.
Well, some of those
So
treatments
have
as well
to-
that you've spoken about. I mean, M-Sculpt isn't too bad. That's just sort of muscle
No.
stimulation. But a lot of those
Yeah.
things, Morpheus 8 you mentioned earlier, that's radio frequency. That's a lot of numbing cream. If that's on your body, that's actually quite intense.
It is, yeah.
So I think you're right. People have to be in the right place mentally. I mean, touching on what Alexis spoke about earlier with the skin boosters as well, because we're seeing those more. I mean, we saw an explosion in skin
Yeah.
boosters anyway. There's every brand under the sun is making one, but we are now using them in the body. So is that something that sort of comes into your approach when you're trying to help a patient find that sort of confidence again?
It is. It's the right, it's the right appliance for the right,
Patient.
problem.
Yeah.
So if somebody, where I'm finding it very useful is the 50-plus-year-old woman who's coming in with arms that suddenly have, they're crappy, they're
Yeah.
thin, and they just sit there and all they see is jiggling.
Yeah.
And
It's such a
quite
difficult
depressing.
area. I'm sure
It's
Jason
very
will agree.
Yeah, it is.
Not from personal experience, but I mean, particularly for women, I think the triceps, the upper arms are so difficult to target.
It's planning. It's about wanting to have muscle over not wanting to have muscle. And the idea of having muscle is a negative thing.
Yeah.
It's really common. We see that all the time.
But then I guess that manifests then Suha in the crepey skin as well, and that's something that we obviously want to try and tackle.
It's crepey skin, it's the knees, it's the elbows, as you've said.
These
it's
areas
the
that we also
tummy.
don't only see until it gets towards summer as well.
You don't see until it comes in summer, and then the neck and the chest are big ones. People forget and they just concentrate on this.
Yeah.
But they don't look at the neck and the chest and what's happening. If you want to kind of deal with aging and prevent, you need to look at the neck and the chest as well. So Profilo helps modulate, strengthen the skin, allow you to make more collagen, more elastin, things that we don't make anymore as we get older. And what it does, it doesn't recreate anything. It just gives us, as Dr. Granite said, just freshness, a bit more vitality in the face, the chest, the neck, everywhere else that you can, and reversal of those crappy little lines that we can't really fix with fillers.
I found it really good on the sort of décolleté. I did it before my wedding,
Yeah.
and sort of all those vertical lines that you get running down your chest, and it was really, really good for that.
Yeah. And you get that at all ages, by the way. It's not just at 60 or 50 or 45. People are getting them even in their mid-20s.
Yeah.
They're coming in and you can't deny them. They're there.
And the backs of the hands
the
are a
backs of
really
the
popular site, right? I think we saw a lot of this after constant hand sanitizing in sort of lockdown periods and alcoholic gels, and everyone's hands were just suddenly sort of very, very dry and
older.
yeah,
kind
just
of
looking just
preppy.
older
Yeah.
looking.
Yeah.
Do you see men coming in for skin boosters as well, or is it more of a female domain?
I love Profilo skin boosters on men, on their face.
Really?
Because a lot of men would come in, and dealing with a man is different to dealing with a woman. Dealing with a man, they don't know they know what they're looking for. They're a lot more acute than women in what they want. But you don't want to change men. They don't have the high cheekbones.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
they
You
need
can't
their
feminize
frown,
anything.
and they need their crow's feet.
Yeah.
And it's nice when a man smiles and it's handsome. So you can't freeze them and make them look like a dolly. They become a little ridiculous. No.
Men get away with it being
So
character.
I find
somehow.
Profilo actually gives them a lot of wellness.
Yeah, exactly.
It boosts and it keeps the handsome face. So I find that as the more I do, the more I start with Profilo with men over a certain age.
I like that you say it's
Because
about
it just-
wellness as well, because
Yeah.
I feel like that's the baseline of so many of these treatments that you do now. Even though they are having an external effect or an impact on our appearance, they are ultimately about wellness.
Yes, I mean you have to look after your patient wellness. You have to look after their health, and that's what we do in the clinic very well. When somebody comes in and they're not sleeping, they're gaining weight. I had a man the other day, just kind of bring an example, and he very successful alpha type, full of, But he is tired. He doesn't have the energy anymore. He needs to keep up with his job, but he doesn't have the energy to do it. He's going to the gym. He's not building up any muscle as much as he used to. He's putting on weight. So all of those are telling me that his hormones are starting to
And I was going to
need
ask you
some
about
attention.
hormones as well.
Yeah, so he's over 50.
Yeah.
And men don't know. They're not like us where we're programmed from the time we're born to go through different phases of life. This is when this is going to happen. This is when you're going to have a baby. This is what your body's going to do. Men don't know. So suddenly men start putting on weight. They can't go to the gym and get the same satisfaction out of it. They don't have the energy they used to have, the vitality, and they don't know what's wrong, and they become a little cranky as well.
It's
Sorry,
frustrating because
guys.
you're still putting out the same output, but what you're gaining just probably is different,
Yeah.
maybe
And life
to what you previously
these days is more demanding than it
Mm.
was previously. People still need to perform at a later
Yeah.
age and perform better.
That's so true. Well, we're
Um,
living so much longer, so of course we need to perform better.
So they do have quite a bit of pressure, and that's the time when you start looking. And for my lady patients as well, they come in, they may have acne, like you said, or they might be not sleeping, or the bodies are acting up on PMS. It's not just from menopause; it's way before with different symptoms. And it's not all about the fillers and the Botox and the machines. It's because no matter how much profile you're going to put in and how much filler you're putting in, the skin may not perform as well because
exactly.
it's lax.
Because
it's
hormonally
tired,
it doesn't
the hormones
have
are
the
not there. They are not going to sleep still because their progesterone is too low and the estrogen is too high. So they're still going to have nightmares because you have nightmares when your hormones are not balanced. You wake up every night having had a nightmare. You're sweating. You're a mess in a way. So unless you sort those things out, the skin is not going to really give you its optimal result.
That's so
You
true.
need to get that sorted, and then we'll get the optimal results for you moving forward. So we
Yeah.
do function that way. We kind of
And I think that's really key to sort of body confidence in general. I think it's not just about what our bodies physically look like; it's how they are chemically behaving as well.
Yeah.
And once we get all of that on track, it's your co-founder partner, sort of Dr. Martin
Yeah.
Gailey, who does all the bioidentical
hormones,
hormones,
yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
And I mean, how does it work when somebody goes in for that initial consultation with him?
So he talks more than I do, by the way. Somebody would go in for whatever reason they go in. They're putting on weight, or they're not sleeping, or they're menopause, or they have acne, or they have PMS, or for whatever host of reasons. And men for being tired, for not performing, and not being vital, and whatever. So he will sit down and have a long chat about every part of your function in the day, in your life, your medical history, all your symptoms,
Just to
complete,
paint that picture
very
of you.
deep medical history. And then he'll take a blood test, and the blood test will be focusing on the hormones he thinks, so thyroid, progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, and other things that might be playing up as well. It doesn't always have to be about hormones.
Yeah.
And then he'll see you back again and look at the blood results versus your symptoms, and he'll marry the two of them into balancing your hormones. It's not about putting you on a one-fits-all hormonal.
It's all very bespoke,
It's very
approach.
bespoke, very particular to what it is that you're going through. And that's, again, it's a rolling program because the hormones are not always the same. We all know you wake in, day in, day out, they're different. So
Yeah.
1 month will be different. So it's an ongoing conversation until he gets you stabilized.
Yeah.
And then you know how to read your body. You
That's-
learn. It's
yeah.
a learning experience of how to start reading your body and addressing the needs of your body.
That's so true. And again, but I think it all comes down to that confidence is taken from that body awareness.
It really is, because it could be very depressing to lose control.
Yeah.
And very and you
At whatever
become
age or
anxious,
stage that
whatever
is.
age. I mean, even to come and see me or to see him, when you've come in to see both of us, your confidence is not where it needs to be yet. And our job is to bring that confidence back in a holistic way. It's not about sticking in fillers and Botox, really isn't. It's really about reading you,
Yeah.
supporting you, educating you, raising your awareness so you know your journey you're on, and you can converse back with me. So I'm not talking at you. You know what we're doing.
Yeah.
And you get to pick
Agreed.
and choose. What are you ready for right now, mentally? You may not be ready for me at all. You might just go to my therapist and have a hydrofacial. That's perfect. That's what you're ready for now. And there's a journey that you choose to be on.
Yeah.
As long as you're happy and you're confident and we've got you in a place where you feel in control, I think we've done a good job.
I agree. I think that's a very nice place to leave it. Thank you so much for your contributions, really eye-opening and fascinating, and really sort of championing why wellness is such a big part of body confidence in general. Thank you, Dr. Kersh. And finally, Jason, I'm going to have to pitch forward so I can see you properly. Jason introduced himself to you as well. He's head of fitness here at Lanserhof. I was going to say ex-Reformer Pilates coach, but no, I guess you still do Reformer Pilates.
Still part of it.
So, Reformer Pilates coach, sort of go-to guy, I suppose, when things start feeling not as they should physically. Maybe you've got an injury, maybe you're just looking to up your fitness levels for summer. What are most people, I suppose, coming to see you for when they come here? I mean, your approach at Lanserhof is very much about longevity, but I suspect that's not the initial reason that people come to the gym.
I think most people have, as you guys even touched upon, people look at themselves in the mirror and have this idea about what they want to achieve. And that's always that is part of what people's goals are, so we don't disregard them. Yeah. But we also try and help people understand that there's a little bit more value in being healthier and being well and living longer, and when that happens, actually all your results from training happen a lot easier as well, and your skin and everything else
everything has to be in there.
All kind of rolls in. So
right.
Again, people come in all the time, and guys come in, it's generally about their chest and arms, and that's a bit of a cliche, but that's it.
What about for women?
Women tend to train, and it's abs and glutes, and that's all they want to train. And actually, part of my job
is. What does that tell you about our sort of archetypal body shapes as men and women? So interesting.
One of the best statements I can ever give anyone is that women should train more like men, and men should train more like women.
Really?
Yeah.
How does that?
Well, women never want to do. Well, very hesitant to sometimes do weight training and do things that are going to change their silhouette. Men often then don't want to do training that can be about their flexibility and about perhaps lower leg strength. It's less obviously important.
But I guess both of them aren't just about the aesthetic gains, they're also about the health gains as well. For men, the posture, the flexibility is undoubtedly important, and for women actually, especially as we get into later life, having that muscle mass so we don't develop osteoporosis is really important.
It's the most, if I had a pound for every time I said it in my time, and I worked at a women's members club before I came here, and all that time is that, and I have the same message I repeat almost daily, is be stronger, be stronger, be stronger. Everything comes from it. People want to burn more calories and burn more body fat. The single simplest way of doing that is having more muscle. You have more muscle, your basal metabolic rate, which is basically the amount of calories you will burn every single day by living, goes up. So you'll burn more calories. So more muscle, burn more body fat, that's going to give you what people are looking for.
It's a very simple equation. I feel like sometimes when we're sort of in that mindset about how to improve our bodies, we forget the simple equations and we try and always just do the trendy, the quick fixes.
My industry has done a horrible job of overcomplicating it and making people think that it's way, way more complicated than it is.
That's why it's such a profitable industry and why everyone has a gym membership.
And it's not. There are individuals who might have more complicated situations, and again, it's the same for all of the topics we're discussing. But for most people, it's a case of getting to the basics of doing the basic things right, by getting your nutrition where it should be, by exercising in the right way, adding some resistance, by getting enough sleep, all of the things that you can do. People just make it way too complicated.
Do you think COVID had an impact on how we approach exercise nowadays?
Yeah, we really positively actually. I think people have actually taken their health more seriously. Yeah. Not just from a training point of view, but from a heart health, from a cardiovascular health, even as much as sort of bodily stresses. So we're lucky in a site like we have here at Lanserhof that we can test such a big array of sort of determinable factors. So we can do hormonal testing, we can do blood testing, we can do mechanical testing, we can do heart and ECGs, cardiopulmonary testing. All of those things give us information to help you make good choices on those things.
I guess you create a blueprint then of each client who comes to see, but do you do that right at the beginning before they start training, or do these things crop up throughout? I
mean, they can crop up, but generally we try and get people to take that step at the start. If as a trainer and as the head of the training team here, we have a biomechanist on site, we have doctors, we have phlebotomists, we have nurses, we have this huge array of great specialists, and if someone does all their testing at the start, we can then create a bit of a roadmap about how they get towards that goal.
Yeah, exactly.
And one of the most positive things about this whole talk is my fellow speakers here, the same message that I will say is this is not click and done. Exactly. You're not going to turn up in the gym, a few exercises, suddenly you look great.
Sadly.
If it was that easy,
Don't get your membership a week
wouldn't,
for your holiday.
yeah, we wouldn't have a job. Like, it wouldn't be that
Yeah.
case. But it's a process, and you have to listen to people that will give you good advice about how to structure that in the right way, not quick fixes.
It is very much about the slow and sustained, isn't it? And also, I guess you probably deal with a lot of clients who are suffering from injuries or sort of weaknesses in the body that have cropped up over time. So again, that's never a quick fix. That has to be a journey.
Yeah. How many people, I mean, probably in this room alone, the 25, 30% of people in this room will avoid exercises because they have pain of some description.
Yeah.
Sometimes they won't like that exercise as well, so it will kind of fit in with what they want. But people will have some knee pain, maybe some back pain, some shoulder pain. That, if you're letting that dictate your life, now in this modern day, that's not acceptable.
Exactly.
We have, again, such great diagnostic tools. Again, we're very lucky. We have an MRI scanner on site, which is incredibly.
I saw that being advertised outside. It plays Netflix on it.
We have probably the only place that has Netflix.
Sounds amazing.
Look, I've had to have a few MRI scans in my life, and I wish I had the pleasure of being able to have Netflix.
I've never had one, but that sounds like quite an incentive.
It's, they're not. They're a bit noisy and a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not great.
I wish them upon myself.
Please don't have an MRI unless you need one. It's not like that. But yeah, look, taking the way you function, the way you move seriously, and as part of that roadmap is really, really key. We live in a, again, Zoom society, as it were, for such a long period of time. So people actually perhaps got inactive, taken their health more seriously, but they've come back with more aches and pains, more things that perhaps don't work the way they should.
And probably a lot of postural deficiencies as well.
The most common thing we deal with. And actually the most common thing we deal with, and the most common thing that people don't want to deal with.
But I mean, what do you see it mainly from? Is it from just sort of looking at phones all day? Like I hear that we're sort of evolving sort of spinally as well, like almost developing an extra vertebrae. It's scary.
Yeah. Even mums. You're picking up children, holding to back the whole time. Everything's weighted forward.
Yeah.
And in fact, all the muscles that are generally around the front of the body, so your pectorals and muscles in the front of your shoulders,
everything gets super tight.
In their shape, they will pull you forward into this curve. So actually working on your back, your lats, your rhomboids, all these muscles that open you up into good posture is really key. And the bit that women always forget, and this is really, really important, is how your waist is and how you see your waist is based on a silhouette and how it looks compared to what's above and below you. So it's always relatable to your hip size and your shoulder size.
Well, it's a bit of a trick of the eye in that sense. Yeah. So exactly, it's not about having a small or a big waist, it's about ratio and proportion.
Your hip bones are not changing. No one is chiseling them off and changing the shape of them. No one's changing where your rib position is.
Yeah.
All we're simply doing is by adding that is you're creating a silhouette. And that's, again, you talked about triceps earlier, the back of your arm. Most common thing people say, I don't want to get bulky arms. In fact, what happens when you get bigger arms is you end up getting more shape, you get more musculature to your arms, and people go, oh, your arms look great.
Exactly.
That's all that ever happens. I've never trained a single female that's got stronger muscles in their arms and gone, oh, I don't like this.
Yeah,
they
exactly.
Go, oh, my arms look
definition.
great. Everyone says my arms look good. It's the same for legs. People get glutes is a common thing, and then people train their glutes, and their glutes get big, and they go, oh, I can't fit in my jeans.
Yeah.
Well, oh, okay. If you're gonna change your body, you're gonna have to change your jeans.
I think a bit of it is about reframing your mindset actually, and it's not about counting calories or the size of the clothing that you're necessarily buying. It's just making sure that you feel sort of happy and confident in your physical ability as much as anything else.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Tell us a bit about your approach, because you're a reformer Pilates instructor, but you've obviously got the resistance training. You've got some really cool high-tech equipment in the gym. You've got your Icarus device, which I went on once, which is really fun.
Look, again, we have a great relationship with a lot of technology brands and equipment brands that enable us to have the most unique stuff. We have equipment that you'll find here that isn't anywhere else in the UK. Allows us again to get feedback on how you train. Icarus is a really cool device, and if you guys have time afterwards, please come up to the gym and see it, because I think it's the most beautiful gym in London for sure. Definitely in London, probably the world, but
very photogenic.
Maybe not the world. There's probably some beach in Tulum that has this.
You have several Lanserhofs all over the world.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, look, we have floor-to-ceiling windows, natural light. There's flowers. It's all part of the same Lanserhof architecture. You want to go to the gym. You know, people, most gyms, especially most guys, we've always sort of been members of gyms that are kind of a bit grotty, and in a way it's kind of nice, but also not really that nice. And
They're always underground.
yeah,
It's true. It's nice to have a bit of light
turn
coming
into
in.
sort of vampires after a while. It's not a good thing.
The Icarus is very cool though, because it almost turns, what is it, like a core workout into a bit of a game almost.
Yeah, effectively. So Icarus is a core training machine that kind of puts you in a plank position, but it has effectively a gyroscope, so you can move from side to side and forward and back. So if I ask someone, I'm not going to, don't worry. If I ask someone to get into a plank, the floor is never moving. You're not actually working your core
Against
that much, because
anything,
there's nothing unstable. There's nothing they're having to balance against, and that's why people get really, really tight hips. And when you talk about people kind of that skin and how you use your abdominals, actually how you train them is really important. People don't actually know how to train them properly.
That's
People
so
get
true.
really tight hips instead. Not that helpful. So again, right training technique can be part of that, and that's where Icarus can be really helpful. Is that you can be set up to be in a really foolproof position.
It's very beautiful as well. You sort of glide above like lakes and rivers in Germany or something.
We have virtual reality training here, so you can put a headset on and fly around mountains while you're training.
God,
Very
that
cool.
would work.
Huh?
Is that really gonna work?
Actually, early research from Munich University has given that not only do you burn more calories in virtual reality, but you get a better neuromuscular link, so you actually get more muscle activity.
Really? That's crazy.
So actually, as much as VR seems like a bit of a gimmick to make it more fun, you actually get a bit more out of it as well. So
That's very cool.
why not do it? We have it for rowing machines as well, so you can row across a lake in France.
Oh my god, I didn't realise that. But I think the same as, maybe what Dr. Kersh was saying with the M-Sculpt as well. Sometimes you just get fatigue from in the gym doing, well, you would never do 20,000 crunches, but you can get on the M-Sculpt machine and do that. You can get on the Icarus and probably just push your body to its greatest sort of limit, which you would never do otherwise.
But virtual reality enables people to step a little bit away from their current situation. They are so immersed that everything else is sort of lost a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a lady here who had a big abdominal surgery. Could really go on a rowing machine for maybe 90 seconds before she started to think about the pain and started to get uncomfortable. Put the headset on, 6.5 minutes later, she stops and goes, it didn't hurt.
That's amazing. Well, it's the power of distraction sometimes as well.
So,
Where does the Reformer Pilates fit in then, with all of the high-tech stuff?
again, I kind of mentioned it earlier about kind of how men and how women should train a little bit, and that's we always use Pilates effectively as a supplemental part of people's workouts. Now, it's a good question for everyone here actually. How many people here do classes as part of their workout? Anyone? Yeah, there's a few of you. Now, how many of you only do classes? Yeah. It's like getting a bus. You're all going to the same place, and that might not be where you want to be going. London is a great analogy for that.
As in, we can do the classes, but we should be supplementing it with something a bit more bespoke
Should
to
we-
us.
Yeah, think about sort of training in the gym as your taxi across London, classes as your bus, because everyone's on the same bus, everyone's going to the same place. You might have to get 2 buses to get to where you're getting to.
That's so true. That's
So-
a good analogy.
Again, if you can give you any advice from today, add classes to training.
If I can give you any advice, sign up for some personal training.
What? It doesn't even have to be one-on-one. Like, again, look, personal trainers are, again, I think very, very valuable to teach you how to exercise. Now, some people need someone there effectively cracking the whip every time. That's just how we are as human beings. Some people need that.
So
For
true.
most people, coming in, spending an hour with a personal trainer, learning how to move, what exercises to do. And for me as a trainer, and we have many clients that do this, we say, look, do this. You've got this plan, it's on your app, you can follow it, there's videos, do it 3 times a week for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Come back to me, we'll retest, make sure you're performing the exercises better, you're moving better, I'll give you the next stage. It's about empowering people, not about me shouting at you.
No, I think that's true. And you also have to just figure out, like Dr. Kersh was saying, you have to figure out what the patient needs, what the client needs, how they're best going to meet you halfway, because it is that sort of combination. What about all the biohacking facilities you have here? You have all sorts from like cryotherapy to hyperbaric oxygen. Do they fit into the approach when it comes to fitness? Are they important?
Yeah, 100%. And again, these guys very well touched upon that holistic approach. Holistic is a word that gets banded around way too easily nowadays, but it encompasses everything. So cryotherapy, if you've never done it, is basically cold therapy. So not as terrible as cold water immersion or sort of Wim Hof stuff that's quite prominent now, but really cold, so minus 110. You do it in a very low humidity environment, so you get a better response from a blood flow response, better lymphatic system response.
It
So
switches
actually,
on all of like the the growth factors in your body or something, doesn't it? So you can heal from injury as well.
Heal from injury, you get better skin response, better sleep response. That's probably the number one factor from cryotherapy. Is people sleep great.
Yeah.
I do it pretty much every day, and I wouldn't ever stop at this rate.
I guess it's only, how long are you in your machine here for? 3 minutes?
Up to 3 minutes, yeah. In fact, I only do it for 2. You don't need 3.
Yeah, exactly.
A certain temperature drop, and that's it. So, my wife hates it because when my head hits the pillow, out, I'm gone. And when I get up in the morning, fresh.
God, that's amazing.
So, yeah.
What about things like the hyperbaric oxygen? How does that sort of enhance fitness, strength, longevity?
So hyperbaric is again a recovery device, much like cryotherapy. Cryotherapy can be used like post-exercise as well as a kind of tool to prevent some soreness. So again, if you have aches and pains, again, it's a great tool to use to kind of get you over that idea of training and then it being sort of sore the next day and then you're kind of out of action. Hyperbaric's a little bit more internal, so it's more about creating a system where you're in a bit more pressure environment, you get a higher percentage of oxygen basically pumped in through a mask, and you're basically just getting a recovery process of oxygenating your blood better. You oxygenate your blood better, your hormone functions better, your endocrine, your organ functions better. You as a human being work better.
So strengthening all those building blocks that will actually enable you to sort of deliver your best performance.
We're also one of the few places that has a bit of a testing procedure for hyperbaric now. So
how does that work?
Dr. Levine, who is one of our GPs here, has a very fancy microscope that basically we can look at a sort of speck of blood and look at how well the red blood cells are looking with it and whether they're looking oxygenated, whether they're stacking on top of each other, which stops them getting oxygenated, which is the stress response, or whether we can see like build up of white blood cells, things like that as well. So we can actually see how well you're dealing with stress and how well you're dealing with taking on.
And I guess all of those measurable tests give you results that you can benchmark your progress.
You mentioned it, it's test, train or treat and then retest.
Yeah, exactly.
The before and after is really key. Doing it once and finding out that you have certain results isn't really relevant unless you're doing it again.
Yeah, that's so true. And finally, where does nutrition fit into all of this? I mean, you mentioned earlier about sort of building muscle, and I'm sure a lot of that comes down to eating protein so that you can lose fat, but is that a conversation that you end up having quite frequently with your clients?
Yeah, all the time. Again, probably if I asked everyone here to write down how much protein they've had today, I would guess that 95% wouldn't have enough for normal kind of building block function.
What should we be aiming for every day in terms
of
protein?
Especially if you're exercising, you should be looking at somewhere around 1.5 to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight. So,
your weight.
So if you're 50 kilos, you should get 75 grams of protein. Now, that's where supplementation comes in. That's where having protein powders or supplements in different forms should be part of your routine.
Even if you're not looking to build a lot of muscle, you're just trying to sort of maintain a healthy physique.
100%. Yeah. Right, like you said, proteins are the building blocks. If you don't get enough protein, you're not going to repair and you're not going to have that function.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the same for skin and organs as well. So it's not it's not alone. It's not just people in the gym take protein because they want bigger muscles. Yes, that's part of the factor as well. But it's more about you again being healthy, being strong, prevents injuries. Again, all these proteins help tendons and ligaments all keep their strength as well. So
how does that approach fit in? Because Lanserhof is very much built on this like myomedicine concept, which isn't always that high in protein.
No, so the two things are very separate.
Yeah.
So again, if you're on a fast or you're on a myocure, you're trying to get yourself in a position where you're getting out of a habit of really bad habit eating wise. It's hard to do that especially in busy daily lives, by just suddenly going, I'm just going to change it. We have habits, we have lifestyles that make that very difficult. We have cravings, we have hormonal responses from leptin and ghrelin that just, do we want that food, should we have it, etc., etc. So absolutely not a case of one or the other, they are separate things. So once someone's got into good habits, then we try and promote good eating habits. So again, good protein amounts, not avoiding carbohydrates, I get that all the time. People think carbohydrates are the enemy. They're really not. They taste really good as well, so don't avoid them.
Depends which carbohydrates we're talking about. We're not talking about chips here, right?
Look, if you train well, you're healthy in many aspects, you can eat chips. It's nothing bad. They're just, again, if you're due to, if you can work out that within a good diet and you exercise and you're active and you can have 80, 100 grams of carbohydrates a day, you can have chips. I mean, you can have chips and then you can have really bad chips. There's this, you have McDonald's chips, and maybe not the best way to have it, but you can eat those foods because you like them.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't have to be an everyday thing. It's
Don't-
just about balance.
You make nutrition and fitness, you become a slave and you hate it.
Yeah.
You're never going to be able to continue doing it.
Yeah,
you're,
that's so true.
You're always going to come off that path.
You can't demonise any one sort of thing, can you?
No, I love chocolate. Chocolate is my
I know, me too.
kryptonite.
Oh, agreed.
But I know on a day when, if I have some chocolate, I know, all right, I can't leave this building until I've done some work. And I'm lucky enough I work in a gym, that gives me the ability to do it. But everyone at home has got a set of stairs. Everyone's got a step or a chair.
Yeah.
Sit down, stand up, going up and down the steps, do some push-ups.
I think you're right. It's just about sort of balancing all of those things and making sure you're living life sort of in a even keel.
Life's too short to avoid chocolate,
Also a good note to end on.
Yeah.
From the personal trainer. Well, thank you, amazing panelists. I think that sort of brought us to the end of our sort of general communal discussion about body confidence. And yeah, it's been super interesting to listen to all of you. I think everyone here will agree, it's very nuanced what body confidence actually means to each of us, whether that's how we look in the mirror, how we feel in our clothes, what our performance is like in the gym. But I think everything that you've all three of you touched upon, the importance of looking ahead, planning, trying to sort of retain some vision of what longevity and health span looks like to each of us, and really strengthen our bodies, strengthen our skin, strengthen our collagen, our muscles. It's super important when we're thinking about sort of health, how to feel happier and healthier. We've got some time for some questions if anyone does have any. If you do need to run, then please just scoot around. Don't forget to collect a goodie bag at the exit because they're really not to be missed. Were there any questions? People can just pop up their hand if. Oh, Pavel, I thought Pavel was putting up his hand. Hi there.
What's the difference between the Profilo and this injectable collagen?
Profilo is hyaluronic acid, it's not collagen. Profilo stimulates the production of collagen. So we're not injecting collagen, we're injecting hyaluronic acid, which your body is able to use better. Your body makes hyaluronic acid anyway. So when you're injecting hyaluronic acid, your body is able to break it down over time, much easier and more organically. And it's not something that will stay on in your system permanently. It's temporary. And it will promote the internal production and generation of cells that will promote collagen production and elastin for you. So you're not putting in something and hoping it will work in there. So it's a bit old-fashioned injecting collagen.
But then you also have the collagen-stimulating fillers that you use, right?
Yes.
Which would be a step up from like a Profilo because they're much denser.
They do different things. They do different things. So they would help in kind of collagen stimulation, and also they have filler properties. And I like them. They have their place in the market, but there are something that you can't dissolve if it goes wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm quite careful of
you
using
need to use
anything
little
that I
and-
can't reverse if you don't like it, if you react to it, if for any reason. So it's something I use, but I don't go to first because also it's quite a little old. It's quite, it's one of those things you go back to once in a while. But there's a lot of nicer, more dependable products out there that you could reverse if you needed to. So I would always go more for hyaluronic acid based products.
Alexis, do you do any collagen stimulating treatments aside from?
I do, but I agree as well. They're not my treatment of choice. So I would always rather have something I can reverse.
Yeah.
And a lot of the treatments, hyaluronic acid is used more now because there is always this option that if you don't like it, if there's a problem, you can dissolve it. Whereas some of the older products, things like Sculptra, Radius, they're not reversible. So I don't love using them truthfully.
Got to be in a safe
And
pair of hands.
Remember collagen production, and I would go back to my little thing here. It's like going to the gym. You can't do cardio all the time. You can't do Pilates all the time. You can't do high resistance training all the time. You can't just wait. You have to do all of it to get your skin and your face to perform. So you have to get your skin to start making your skin. So it's not always about injecting. I mean, that's what I do for a living. I inject all day long. But you have to get your skin to wake up.
It's
and
switching on
start
your body's
regenerating.
ability to do it itself.
So, and to start producing growth. No, not just Profilo. Profilo is a great start, but you can't just keep putting Profilo and hoping for the best. You have to get your skin to start making new skin. So be it you start challenging with microneedling, be it you start challenging with some radiofrequency, just small little challenges that make your skin wake up a little bit and say, oh, I'm not used to this. Oh, I have to start making new collagen. I have to start producing a little bit more, tightening up. So there's so much technology out there right now that you could use to your own, tolerance, be it, pain tolerance, be it commitment, time tolerance. And they really nicely go linked in with Profilo. And they produce a good result. I mean, I went on one of those journeys myself a couple of years ago. I had to have eye surgery and I didn't have any Botox and fillers and I stopped doing it. But I was looking 100 years old, so I was like, this is not gonna, especially after COVID, I was like, this can't work, I'm going back to work. So, but I still couldn't do fillers. I still haven't done it, but what I did was I started doing collagen boosting treatment. So I started with things like oil therapy, which is ultrasound focused treatment. So it delivers ultrasound and you're cut deep into the tissue at different layers and you recover by tightening up, lifting and making collagen. I went on to doing Morpheus and all through I had Profilo. And I have to say I was quite happy. It kind of held off.
Is that combination approach that sometimes gets the most natural results as well,
it is.
rather than just doing one treatment?
It's when you get everything in, to produce the one result for you. The one thing, if you keep using it, the skin gets used to it. And you're not going to get, the results. If you keep doing Pilates, you're going to get great tummy, but you're not going to have the strength and you're not going to get the cardio. You're not going to, you're gonna have to mix it up a little bit so you can get the better result and more preventative, more long term. And it actually works out really nicely. I mean, if you look at it 2 years and 3 years on, patients do very well with that combined approach.
No, I think it's definitely the future when we're doing any of these treatments. Were there any other questions? I think looked over this side of the room. Hi.
My question to Dr. Alexis. What kind of a colour change should we look at for with moles? Because funnily, when you mentioned it, I remembered that about 4 or 5 years at least I've had like this little red mark, almost like a burn. And last week I've noticed it's gone brown, but it's there, but it's more under the skin now. So it was very red, like a red mole.
Yeah.
Now it's brown.
Yeah. I mean, normally we would say when something goes from a lighter color to a darker color is when it is potentially a cause for concern. But again, if it is a change, if it's only been a week, you might want to give it another week or two. And then if it doesn't go back to what it was, that might be something that's worth looking at. The truth is moles do change over time. I mean, and actually moles oftentimes start out as quite dark and they may be flat, and then over time they may become more raised and actually lose some of their pigment, so they become lighter naturally. And that's not a concerning change. That's very common. But I think if it is a persistent change and it's just something that you've noticed, I think it is always good to just have it checked if it is something that sticks around for a while. So a week I wouldn't be too worried, but maybe a few more weeks it might be good to have it looked at.
And what would be the outcome if somebody did come to you with that concern and you identified it as being something a bit worrisome? What would then your next step be?
So then we would do a biopsy. So it depends exactly what you're biopsying, but typically if it's something that's raised from the skin, the easiest way to biopsy it is to numb it with a little bit of lidocaine, like what you get at the dentist, to numb your mouth. And then we would just do what's called a little shave. So we just take the part that's raised up off the skin, we just remove that and send that to the lab.
It used to be raised.
It used to be raised.
Little bump, and now it's flat and brown. Yes.
It's like it's gone backwards and reverse.
Yeah.
It's a sign I should go doctor.
And then if it is a flat spot and it needs to be biopsied, that might be a type of biopsy where we actually cut around the little lesion and then we actually close it with stitches. So it's a little bit harder to remove. Just you want to make it look better cosmetically. But a raised spot from the skin is very easy. Just take some part of the skin out.
Thank you. Were there any other questions? I had one more question for Jason, which I forgot to ask actually. I feel like we only ever spoke about when patients are trying to lose weight, but do you ever come across clients who actually need to put on weight for whatever reason?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
And what's your approach there?
It's the same process of trying to figure out starting where they are. We test to find out where they are. So nutritionally, it might be about what they eat, what they normally consume. Training wise, what they normally do. Often it comes with a very, very active, or so overly active lifestyle. So a job that's very, very active, lots of travel, perhaps lots of stress, especially for females when things like cortisol get a little high, their ability to, to necessarily, especially when younger, is to burn a lot as opposed to then be able to store any muscle, store any fat at all, just kind of goes out the window. So we try and figure out where people are and then set, again, a roadmap for them to gain some weight. Usually in the terms of building muscle as opposed to body fat, but sometimes people need body fat. Again,
and it gets long and slow and sustained in that approach again.
Women really need body fat. There's a really healthy amount of body fat that women need to have, and there's sort of guys as men have a very different number from that. So they're not comparable at all. You can't look at a guy with really low body fat and say, I want to be there as a female, because you need to function. Your body fat percentage and a lot of your menstrual cycles and things like that they are linked. And I've trained many people that have gone way too far low and then had issues with it. So it's about getting them back to a healthy stage where their body's functioning appropriately.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I don't think there are lady at the back.
I have a question for Dr. Alexis. So if do you think LED light is helping for hair loss problem?
LED light and hair loss.
Probably not that much, no. That wouldn't be my treatment of choice. You mean like scalp thinning, hair thinning? Yeah, I mean, I think with scalp, hair thinning for women can be, obviously for men it's very common as well, but for women it can be common for very different reasons. So I think if it's something that you're noticing or someone that you know is noticing, I think one thing that is really important to do is to have an internal evaluation. So to figure out if there's any sort of hormonal imbalance, or one very, very common cause of hair thinning in women is iron deficiency. So again, those are just such easy things to generally correct that can be incredibly helpful. And then, lifestyle, stress, all of that can play a really big role in hair loss. So I think it's really good to just have that sort of exam and figure out if there's anything that can be identified that's causing that thinning. Sometimes it is genetic hair loss. So some women, particularly as we get older, their hair will naturally thin. So in terms of treatments, number one is reversing any imbalance that might be there. So whether it's thyroid, iron, etc., all of those can be helpful. And then sometimes there are hormonal medications that can be taken that can help with hair loss. So spironolactone, actually, that we mentioned for acne is a good one in women. Certain types of vitamin supplements. Actually, another common cause is vitamin D deficiency. And that's a huge issue, obviously, in this country. So I think finding the cause rather than trying something that's more experimental like LED is probably more helpful in the end. One thing that I have actually seen good results with, and I don't know if you do this as well, is plasma therapy, so PRP. I've had some good results with PRP for hair loss.
That's where you're taking the blood and spinning it down,
yes,
right?
so we take the
Getting
blood,
growth
we spin it in a centrifuge, we take out the plasma, which has lots of collagen stimulators and growth factors in there, and then we inject that into the scalp. So that's something I would probably do over something like LED. There are combs that you can try, light therapy combs.
I've never heard of those.
But again, I think the benefit is probably modest.
Hi, again me. Jason, is there anything that can be done to improve circulation exercise-wise, but just specifically for circulation? Because again, I'm a big sufferer. I'm asking everything.
No, it's great. Please.
Yeah, effectively, just about anything that's going to get you working a little bit harder is going to give you a circulatory response. I think if you
like every day, even if it was something as small as 20 minutes that I could do, because 9 hours I'm sitting down and hands and feet freezing cold blue.
Yeah, that's again
water retention.
Really common in just not moving enough. Yeah. Again, if your lifestyle, if your job puts you in that position, there's not really much. I can't say to you change your job because that's the case. I'd advise you to try and take as many breaks as you can. You can get things under your desk that might, like a little, the little spiky yoga mat. I can't think what it's called.
What, for your feet?
Yes, so you can get like a pressure mat because you can create stimulation. So you can get, even if you went on Amazon, you can get they're like laundry balls, the things you do in the tumble dryer, little spiky massage balls. Just put it around, roll it under your sole of your feet, because a lot of it's about response. So we keep shoes on all day under a desk, they're just really locked, nothing's really happening. there's no stimulation, there's nothing that really happens. So create stimulation. So you can do that while you're at your desk.
Yeah.
Probably at some point at your lunch, make sure every single time you have your lunch, you're going and doing something. Again, it doesn't have to be difficult, but something that uses your feet a lot. So again, not just from a spiritual point of view, but do some earthing. Go and find some ground, take your shoes and socks off.
I got
and
told this today.
Pardon?
I got told this today.
Good.
Step on grass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, there are spiritual and worldly reasons to do earthing, and I do it. I'm a big fan of it. But in terms of actually getting your feet on the ground and feeling it and getting some texture and some stimulation, we don't. We wear shoes and all day, and more often not particularly comfy shoes, especially females. You guys are really good at wearing shoes that look really uncomfortable to wear.
But they look so wonderful.
So yeah, they do. They do look great. But
Especially yours today.
Oh, thank
yeah,
you.
exactly. Yeah, that's a great example. Great example.
So I've been sat down for an hour.
Apart from that, and exercise-wise, what's the best form of exercise to improve circulation?
I wouldn't say there's a specific form, but if you're finding it, especially in your feet and in your legs, then you've got to try and create something that's going to stimulate
Cardio,
leg flow. It doesn't have to be cardio, but anything that creates a physiological response. In fact, cardio is something that our body adapts to very, very quickly.
Yeah.
So actually doing something that's a little bit more resisted. So it might be something as simple as, again, you talk about going up and down the stairs. Go up and down the stairs.
Yeah.
Keep doing it because you're going onto your toes, you're walking, it's hard. And if it's easy, grab a bag, put some heavy things in it, and keep going up and down. Make it harder.
Yeah.
Grab a backpack, put some bottles in it. You don't have to always think about things as exercises. Go to the gym and do specific high intensity things. Do normal things, but make them harder for yourself.
That's a good
And
approach.
your body will be more prepared for it.
How about those foot massages that you put in there?
Yeah. You
My
can do that, yeah.
daughter, she took mine and she puts it on her desk at university and she studies while her feet are being massaged.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
It's-
I
yeah.
want one of those.
Where I am, they've just opened up somewhere, Body Lab. They have this really big float
Flotation
machine.
tank.
Yeah, and I went in and I asked, but I've totally forgotten, it was so long ago. 5,000 salts. in there.
Amazon for nothing.
But I'm just wondering, I wonder if that really helps with like the circulation. I know it gives you like deep sleep and relaxing you.
Again, flotation will relax you. I don't know.
Is it just for relaxing that one?
Yeah. Really, that's what you're trying to do. Again, it's got 5 tons of salt in the water. It's quite impressive actually when you fill one up.
Yeah.
But again, you're just trying to take a bit of a zen situation and try and be relaxed, which again will help circulation to some degree. But again, probably for you, being a bit more a positional thing. Again, lying down and being still probably isn't going to help that too much. Probably getting in a position where your feet are kind of parallel with yourself is actually not going to help blood flow at all. Actually, if anything, it'll make it even more difficult. So, get out more walking, earth a little bit.
Dr. Kersh, what about manual lymphatic drainage, like those body suits that you have? Do you still have one of those?
I still have
Like a
one of those.
lymphostim?
We kind of added on to treatments because it's great. You can get the same benefits from a strong massage, but if you're in a clinic, it also is nice for detoxifying and for drainage, especially if you're congested, you have hormonal issues, and you're just feeling a little bit kind of off, or you just want a little bit of stimulation. It's great.
They feel very relaxing.
It's very relaxing.
I have this
Have you
done,
tried this?
manually by hand every week. I really suffer badly from lymphatic
goodness,
drainage.
wow.
Yeah. The machine is great. You go
You
into
can buy
kind
a
of
machine at home.
you go into a bit of a glove.
I think I know
And
the
it
machine
kind
you're
of
talking
compresses
about. A
you.
couple of years ago it came
Yeah.
out, didn't it? It was the
They've got one
whole
called
It's a
Body
body
Balance,
suit,
they've
yeah.
got one
Body
called
balance,
Lymphostim,
yeah.
one called Pressure Therapy.
They're really there's quite a few brands that do like leg variations that you can do. We have them upstairs. You literally just zip your leg in,
Yeah.
and you can set the
Could
pressures and
you
things
work
like that. You
with
put your leg.
with like your legs strapped into
I didn't
this?
ever think about that. Maybe I could.
Might be a bit of an investment, but it could be fun.
I would do anything to get rid of this.
Oh,
It's
that could be a good
actually
choice, yeah.
frustrating.
No, hopefully that's there's a
I
few
would
solutions
always,
there.
if I can, I would always suggest trying to not fix something with something that's quite static. I think if your position, if it's about you being quite still, putting something on, even if it's kind of manually kind of creating a bit of stimulation, it's just sort of not falsifying it, but you want a natural response, something that happens normally.
I found that before when I used to train, or I used to go Pilates a lot, and then I had like loads of injuries as well. Every time I did reformer, I left in more pain. So I stopped that as well, and then I'm not motivated to go gym. I'm not a gym person. So I'm just trying to figure out every day what can I do. Like, is it half an hour walk is enough? Because you're too tired.
Probably a bit of
after
trial
work,
and error as well. You just have
Yeah.
to try a few
Yeah.
different things.
Every-
to
You
see
know,
what
I don't
works
think it's
best.
a one thing you can do a day. I think it's multiple small things you have to do because it's a circulation
true.
issue.
Small things, yeah.
And you do something in the morning and you sit for the whole day, you've kind of not getting the
It's
benefit
not
weight.
going to, yeah.
You're gonna have to do small little things, even a 10-minute or a 5-minute, go to the bathroom or go
Yeah,
make a
yeah,
cup
yeah.
of tea or warm up your hands with something warm in your hands. It's small little steps that'll make a difference. The walk
Rather
is
than a big
nice,
thing.
but it's not gonna make a difference, I think, to you throughout your day.
Mixture of things.
And yeah, you talk sometimes with that process where people sometimes go, I need to do something every single day. You don't have to be. It doesn't have to be a competitive thing where you always like, I've got to do more or whatever. Like, it can just be as simple as if you walk 1,000 steps a day. On the next day, see if you can walk 1,100 and just do a little bit more.
Challenge
And
yourself.
very, very quickly, you will be very, very far away from where you started. And
Cracking up.
it's not really that hard.
10,000.
100 steps for most people in a day. We wouldn't even realise 100 steps. It'd be, around the block is more
Back
than
and
100
forth to the
steps.
fridge.
So think about it sometimes in those little small, like you said, the small victories, the little things. Just add on a little bit
Yeah.
more every day.
It's easier
Small
to accomplish
victories.
as well that way.
But that's a point of data. That's why you can learn about what you do now and then do more next time.
There's a question over here as well.
I don't know to which the two doctors maybe can answer. Is the plastic surgery, which stage we should go for plastic surgery if problem persists? I mean, like for me, I always have this double chin. I mean, what is the best things to do before I go finally to the scissor?
To the surgeon.
We will do it, and then we have this Nefertiti look-alike or whatever.
Have you tried anything?
Previously as just a small injection, which it helps a lot, but like they keep coming back.
Like a fat dissolving injection.
Exactly.
What else? Because you do what, like a cool sculpting, Dr. Kersh?
Again, I love my combinations. I think today we're doing less and less plastic surgery.
Because you said, do you remember in Zoom when we always
Yeah, but we have to be a bit realistic as well. We can't punish ourselves constantly by looking at Zoom. We have to realize that when we talk to each other, we talk this way, not this. Like we have to give it some self-love, to be honest, and not just keep picking at ourselves. But this is an issue that a lot of my patients have, this genetic issue, and what we need to make sure that it is genetic. It's not something because of weight loss, because it's not a weight, if it's weight that you need to lose to get rid of it, then lose the weight. And then come back and let's see what's left behind. And then we can sort that out. It's not, these things shouldn't be done because we put on weight and we just want to lose it like this. If there is a fat pad here that is kind of not showing off your jawline, right? What we can do is we can reduce the fat through cryotherapy. So it's a machine. They come in different forms these days. There's
Cool
Sculpt,
sculpting,
Crystal, blah blah blah. There's so many, and that will reduce the fat permanently under your chin, about 25%. Not 50, not 60. That's not going to happen. It's about 25% reduction. What needs to be done is the area needs to be managed, not just this, because it's coming from all around.
Is that like supporting
It's
scaffolding
supporting
around?
it. And then
the
after
face?
that, what you need to do is tighten the area by something like therapy. Radio frequency may not be strong enough. Therapy would be the one probably to use, so once a year treatment. You may need a bit more. You could repeat the fat freezing in about 4 months if you need more results. But also remember, as you're getting older, you're losing volume and you're losing fat. And your bone is getting a little thinner and your skull is shrinking. Sorry guys, it's not great things to hear. But things start to kind of come down and you start getting the jowls, you're getting these guys coming down, the sad look, the hollow eyes, and the saggy neck, because it all starts to come and hang around here. And people come and say, I want surgery. And it's not surgery you need. It's, again, the multiple supportive treatments you need. We need to bring back the volume. And I don't mean volume as in big cheeks and big lips. As in, can we just lift a bit, look elegant and less tired? That's it. We don't need to look like somebody.
Botox and fillers.
Fillers, a very clever combination of fillers where you still look quite natural. You look well, you're healthy, you're looking at shadows, you look at hollows, you're looking at lifting. You're not looking at creating anything you didn't have before. Even if you've had it in your 20s, you're not going to have it in your 40s or 50s. So you lift, you tighten, you regenerate the skin, you kind of, reduce the fat, and you will eventually get what you're thinking of in a nice, healthy way. Without the surgery. There is place for surgery. There honestly is a big place for surgery. It does do, in the right hands, it's a great job. You still need to do the other cosmetic things because you're still losing volume, your skin still needs help, you still need to lift a little bit. So only go to surgery, I think, if you kind of had a genuine discussion with a surgeon and with a cosmetic doctor and weighed up what you can get out of each and then made your final decision. We do a lot these days cosmetically without having to go into surgery.
I think you're right, it's all about that combination, that sort of very subtle strategic approach over time, isn't it, as well?
Yeah.
That's the most important. Another question, down on the sofa.
Down on the sofa.
Down on the sofa.
What do you suggest for hooded eyelids?
Depends at where you're at with the hooded eyelids. So there is multiple
Early
issues.
stages.
If you're in early stages, a little bit of Botox to lift your.
I just have Botox. That's
Yeah,
all
I mean, if you're in the early stages, a very kind of strategically placed Botox injection could actually lift your eyebrows and lift your eyelids. At a certain level, maybe some filler to kind of lift up and just give some support if you're losing too much volume.
To look into. Is it
Yeah.
meant to be here in
What
the
is?
halo bit, or do the filler?
The filler.
No, it's in the
Something
temple.
recently that I found
It's
out.
in the temple.
Okay.
So it would
but it
lift
has
the
to
whole
be
eye area.
Yeah, just to lift, just kind of a little bit. It's a millimeter or two that you're trying to kind of bring
And
it
do you
up.
think this is better option to do rather than
This laser treatment.
the one they cut?
Like a plexer?
It's like a laser. Is that
It's a left
It's
flexor,
like
yeah.
Flexor,
the
yeah.
holes
Yeah.
they do.
Flex.
Plexer.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Is
I
that-
haven't
you done
used that, to be honest. I don't know
I've
if
done
you've
it.
had
It's
that.
I'm not
People
a
have very
huge
mixed
fan.
reviews
It's
about it.
really long recovery,
Okay.
and I think the result is subtle.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure it's worth the recovery. At that stage, I'd probably
looked at
recommend
even
surgery.
And it looks really, really bad.
What
the
looks bad?
recovery,
The
thread
recovery.
lift. You know when
Yeah.
My
it looks
advice
really
is-
I would do the
amazing.
filler.
If you're younger and remember hooded eyelids are part of your beauty. I don't have them, but you have them, and that's part of what makes your eye beautiful.
Yeah.
You can't take them away or wish them away because you look weird without them.
Yeah.
So you just need to make them look healthy.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
And not too high and not too, you can't do this.
Yeah.
So if you could just support them and you could use Botox, maybe a little bit of filler if required, if you're suitable, and maybe some ultrasound to tighten up the area. At a later stage in life, maybe perhaps get a consultation with a surgeon who would do a little tiny little bit of a tuck-in for you.
My mum did
But
that.
you're not there yet. I don't think you're there. I don't know what you think of this, but I don't think you're there yet. You're very beautiful.
It
Don't-
actually really gets to me.
It's very much part of your eyes though. I mean, what you do eye-related skin boosters, don't you? Ones that are sort of good for rejuvenating.
But exactly as you said, I mean, that's just a type of eye.
There's
There's
skin. I feel like it's
You're
Don't
Lots
do
of little
anything.
things. Don't do
We're never
anything.
gonna stop.
You're really good.
Without any other questions on the
I
floor?
can't think of anything else.
Okay, I was going to say that they'll be here afterwards for any personal consultations. All that's left for me to say then is a big thank you to our amazing panellists for being so wonderful, for fielding all of our questions and my questions, and for being very full of insights and inspiration. So thank you so much, and thank you to everyone who came tonight, everyone who stayed right until the bitter end. It's been wonderful to have you with us, and we'd obviously love to see you at all of our events. So if you're not already registered, please leave all your details. We'll add you to our mailing list. Come to everything else that we're doing over the next few months. And hope to see you at our next event. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye. Thank you so much.